Welcome to A Friday Reads, where we talk about what I read, what I'm reading, what I hope to get to next. I have finished 2 things, which I was honestly very surprised about. I'm in the middle of a bunch of things I'm loving, and I'm very excited to get this filmed because Ryan got me a new video game that I really want to install and play, even though I am still in the middle of Witcher. Shh. We'll get there. But I'm actually really surprised I finished 2 things because last weekend I went home to visit my mom and my grandmother for Mother's Day, and as I predicted, during the day, I did not read much. I was, hanging out with them, playing games, going shopping, whatever they wanted to do, right? But my flight got delayed 4 hours on the way there. So I had plenty of extra time on top of the time I already get while traveling because I'm one of those people who, has to get to the airport early. I'm not someone who can just, show up, an hour before my flight. It has to be, an hour and a half or 2 hours before my flight or else I get really anxious. That's just how I was raised. So I had a lot of extra time. And then when we drove to my grandmother's house, I had more time than I anticipated. So somehow finished 2 books, which is really cool. So the first one I'll talk about is Iron Gold. And yeah, I really like this one. And I think I like it as much, if not more, than my first time. I was looking through my Goodreads when I was looking through my reviews on Storygraph, they're ported over from Goodreads. I'm like, oh, I did give this 4.5 stars on my first read, which is probably close to what my 4.5 stars are today. It might be more a 4.5 star I gave in 2018 is more close to a 4 star that I give today, but it's comparable. And I'm like, yeah, that feels right. There are some pacing issues. Funnily enough, the perspective that I don't like the most in this book is Darrow from the first trilogy. Don't really love his perspective for multiple reasons. One, I don't actually think he's the most interesting perspective in terms of I am watching a society after a rebellion. Where do we go from here? And his is I don't know, you can just see someone not willing to adjust to new circumstances, and it's really hard. So not only is it hard to see a character that you were rooting for make really questionable decisions, but it's also just, I don't think, interesting because it's not giving me the insight to the world that I want. And I don't think it's really advocating for the change that I want for this world either. So it's a lot of things that make it maybe a little boring and also just hard. Whereas we have other perspectives that we have a gray character, we have a gamma red from the mines, and then we do have a young gold who was ostracized from the people. And so all of those perspectives, I think, are way more interesting in terms of building out this society. I already know what Darrow thinks. I already know what Darrow's going to do. I like these other characters and how they are inspired by other tropes that I've read in different sci-fi. For example, the gold character is very much like Ender from Ender's Game or Paul Atreides, that child genius sort of thing. But also he's the hero of his own story, but he's not necessarily the hero of our story. Really cool. Lyria is probably my favorite perspective, which I don't know if that was the case my first time through, but I really enjoy her as a character. And I'm worried because although while I was reading Iron and Gold, I was remembering oh yeah, this is the trajectory of this plot. This is what we're going to do this book. I don't remember anything about Dark Age other than I had a really hard time getting through it. Not necessarily because of material, but I think it was a lot like how I felt reading Darrow perspective chapters where it's this is hard and I get why we're doing it, but it's also equally not as interesting to me. So we'll see if it's more interesting to me when I pick up Dark Age next month. But I'm really excited for the live show discussion. It's going to be so fun to unpack all this stuff. The world is just so much grander now. There are so many characters that I end up really loving in Iron Gold that I don't think I have the same attachment to supporting characters I do in earlier books. This is where I really love certain characters that have been introduced earlier or new characters. I'm you're so precious. You cannot be hurt. Oh my goodness. And they might get hurt. I can't even remember. In future books, I only have one more book to reread. That I can't remember. So yeah, that was really great. And the audiobook, can't recommend it enough. Really love the full cast. There's 4 narrators for the 4 perspectives, and I think they really also build the world building because when I read it, I just give everyone the same boring accent. But these people, everyone has different accents, and I think it really works because they should. They're in different social circles. They have different accents. They're from different planets, and I just really enjoy that. So I finished Iron Gold, and then, surprising me, I finished The Sun and the Void. If you don't remember in any of my Friday reads, this has been a tricky book for me to get through, and it's been kind of a bummer. In terms of disappointments, there's no way this can't make it on my disappointments of the year list because I was hoping for a 5-star experience, and although I really enjoy the ending, I want to read the sequel. It's not a 5-star book for me. It's not even a 4-star book for me. It's more like a 3.5. And I finally did kind of pinpoint what was missing for me. I really like the world. I really like the setup. There's so much I like about the aesthetic of this. And the action scenes that this author writes are really well done. The fight scenes are so vivid. I'm actually there for them. But I think there are some things that are just very, this is this person's first book, and I'm noticing the cracks. Sometimes I notice them, sometimes I don't. It depends on basically how immersed I am. And in this case, my immersion was broken by some of the mistakes she was making. And I don't know if they're mistakes, but they were issues for me. We have two main characters, Reina and Ava. Really interesting characters. But the problem is that their motivations were never really grounded for me. Like, I understood on paper why they do what they do. But then in certain scenes, they would do stuff and I'm like, why are we responding this way? And that was also all the supporting characters too. I'd be reading a scene and like, this doesn't feel right that we're doing this right now. Like, am I missing the gravitas of the situation? Like, there was a scene, this isn't spoilery, but like something big's happening. They're about to go do a thing. Everyone's kind of has their own agenda, but they're cautiously working together. That's like the vibe. And then suddenly two of the characters who I didn't even know suddenly became friends off page are like swimming in the ocean. And I'm just like, wait, what are we doing? So that's kind of what I mean. There are just moments where like I'm missing a beat. I miss why suddenly this action makes sense to the character and not to me. And am I putting more weight on circumstances than the character? And this happened consistently throughout this whole novel. And so I think that's just a thing where the author knows more than I do and isn't communicating enough to keep me up to date as the reader. It was very it's very Wheel of Time, but this is way more fun for me than Wheel of Time, if that makes sense. But it even has, like, if you like Wheel of Time, like, this has the whole light versus dark forces, the sun and the void, and those two types of magic. Like, it has a lot of great classic fantasy stuff, but through a South American lens. Like, I really enjoy a lot of that, and I think a lot of that's really fun and compelling. There were also some things where I'm just like, there were reveals for the characters that weren't reveals for me because they don't know they're in a fantasy book, but I know they're in a fantasy book. And I'm just like, oh, you guys truly didn't know this was going to happen. Oh, I could have told you. And there is some of that naivety in the characters that was a little annoying. And there was like a side character that was shipped with one of our main characters. And I was supposed to be all in on this, I think. And I'm like, I don't like this dynamic. I don't like it at all. And once I realized I think the book was with me on that, I was better. But for the longest time, I'm like, book, I don't get this. I don't get this ship. This character annoys me, and I do still think that character did inconsistent things based off what I know about her, based off the intelligence I was led to believe this character had. So that's kind of my thing, is like, I couldn't quite get to a 4-star immersion level of reading because I had these character disconnects, but the ending was so cool, and so were the action scenes, and I know where we're going from here, so I'm definitely willing to give this another book, especially because a lot of these things do feel like it's not an ideas problem, it's not even a writing style problem, it's an execution problem, which, you know, you get more practice when you write more books, when you know, I know, because I'm on Twitter too much, that this book has been through 2 editors, not by choice. Like, the original editor left Orbit, so, like, I'm sure that didn't help the book's situation. So, yeah. Is it a disappointment because I wanted to love it? Yes. But did it turn itself around and I suddenly found myself when I was doing other things really wanting to finish it because I'm like, I need to know what'll happen next? Also, yes. So, like, I'm good with that. Like, you know, all things considered, I thought for sure it was going to be just like a solid 3-star, and the fact that it like pulled out a 3.5 with that ending is like pretty solid for me. Now, I'm in the middle of 4 things because I cannot be stopped. Chaos. First, I read 2 more stories in New Suns. We read the Nevo story, and then we read a Tanara Do story since last time. So the Nevo story is, if you like The Empress of Salt and Fortune, I think you're going to really enjoy this story, especially based off what Shannon thought about it, who Shannon from Not So Po loves all things Nevo. So I will point you to any of her Nevo reviews if you want to know if you align with her thoughts and if you'd like that short story. I liked it, but I didn't love it because I do think, and I was really starting to part this out, I really like Nevo's writing, but sometimes it's not as smooth for me as I think it is for other people because of its lyrical quality, or like I'll have stumbling blocks as I'm reading the sentence because my brain's not keeping up with whatever brain path Nevo's on. But it was a really interesting take on what do you do when an oppressor takes over and you need to survive, and how do you help them, but how do you help yourself and your community? It was really interesting. And like I said, if you like the political world building of Empress of Salt and Fortune, I think you'd like that one. And then the Tanari Do one was like a like haunted forest story with eldritch monsters and a young girl who has a pet bobcat and a camera and a dream. I enjoyed it. I think that story is going to be a slow burn story for me. And I, now having read 2 Tanara Redo short stories, need to read one of their short story collections. I know there's at least one that people always recommend me. And also just, I can tell I'm going to vibe with their horror. I know I'm going to. So I need to get one of those books either for the fall or just whenever I'm in the mood for horror. So yeah, continuing to be an absolutely stellar collection. Or I guess anthology, technically. Collections, I think, are one author. All right, next up, I am reading Leech. So I am this far, but I'm going to put on a cover because this is going to be shiny. This is very fun, but I also don't know how to talk about this because I do think the act of discovery is the funness of this book. I can confirm gothic, mystery, sci-fi horror, which I feel like most people kind of know going in. And the stuff that I don't think you truly get to discover that's like pretty much right away is that our main character is a part of a parasite and is trying to figure out what happened to one of their host bodies. Like, and the host body died in like an isolated part of the world in winter in this like house where the family is like not all right. But I'm going to leave it at that because discovering this world is really fun. I like, so as the reader, I'm clueless because I don't know why the world is the way it is. And learning that is like everything I love. Like I really enjoy that. But then the character doesn't know what happened to his host and also potentially what's happening to him. And that's like the horror. I say him, they, I don't really know. Like that's kind of the point. It's a parasite. It doesn't really have even a name. Like it's, it has a purpose and it tries to make a niche because it's trying to coexist symbiotically. But there's also some like stuff about that that's interesting, that is, it's just so cool to unpack. And it's gothic. That's one of the things that slows me down with it, and I started immersion reading it with the audiobook, and the audiobook's really good. I really like the voice actor for that. So it's it's got those just atmospheric descriptive sentences, which I think are really good for developing tension, and there's this wit to the character that I think that comes through really well with the audiobook that maybe my narrator wasn't doing. So I think it's really similar to potentially the writing style in like Gideon the Ninth, but for this, which makes complete sense because Tamsin Muir blurbs this book. I like it more than Gideon the Ninth because like there are not 5 names per characters. It's a 280-page book and not a 500-page book. Like there's some differences. Like there are certain things that are not my style that I can handle for short periods of time and not long periods of time. And I do think the audio narrator is doing a lot of work in helping my focus because otherwise it would take me way longer because just gothic styled things are harder for my brain because usually a hallmark of that is the writing. And I would say that that's also here. Also, if you didn't know, and like I don't actually know the author's pronouns because they're very private about it, but they use they in their bio and I found them on a non-binary / gender non-conforming author list. That's the thing about the author that I didn't know until I was like, I don't know, looking things up and I was like, oh, you use they all in your author bio. Are you, do you use they, them? Just doing some Googling and yeah. So at least bare minimum can confirm gender non-conforming author if you're looking for more of those to add to your TBR. All right, 2 other things. One is the audio of Bone Shard War. Still listening to that about a third of the way through now. I just need to commit more time to it. There's nothing stopping me other than I've not been doing audiobook stuff. Like that's pretty much it. I've been listening to music. Oddly, this is a weird thing. This has nothing to do with this channel or anything like that. But I my Twitter feed is like book Twitter, a bunch of cute animals, and like a lot of Swifties. I don't dislike Taylor Swift, but I'm not a Swiftie, and now I have so much FOMO because everyone's loving the Era Tour, so I've been trying to listen to some of her backlist albums that are more nostalgic for me in my high school time to like try and get it. So that's taking up also some of my audiobook time. And I've been doing a lot of webinars and professional development stuff. So regardless, that's the main reason this isn't getting the priority it deserves. And honestly, once I have some of these other immersion things off my plate, I have the arc as well, so I can probably immersion read it, which is how I finished Bone Shard Emperor anyway. So I'm assuming there's going to become a breaking point in Bone Shard War where I'm just like can't just casually be picking it up and putting it down. I'm going to be like, okay, so I need to get to the ending, right? Like I need to do that because we're still very much in the setup of this book's arc phase. So, all right, and then the last one that I picked up is The Veiled Throne because, again, why would I do this while I'm in the middle of a whole bunch of other stuff? I don't know. But I've read the first 3 chapters and I'm so happy I'm back. It's great. I mean, and, sometimes I get annoyed when you're, like, far in a series and authors introduce you to new characters right away, don't remind you of the characters you love. Ken Liu can do whatever he wants. He truly can. I think the first chapter of this book, I meet a new person. And I'm like, cool, let's go. I already instantly am invested in you because I do think his short story skills of character development translate so well in his long form. It's great. So I'm early days there, but I'm happy. I'm just happy to be back. It's wonderful. And I guess there's really no update for this, but I'm just going to say I have read the first prologue and chapter of The Adventures of Amina el-Sarafi. I have done that. I realized pretty much instantly that I need to be in a very specific place and mood to handle Amina's voice. She has a very loud character voice, which is not a bad thing, but I wasn't quite in the mood for her quips. She's very quippy, which I knew based off all the reviews I saw. It's not like I was unprepared, but there's knowing it and then there's meeting someone. It's like, oh, you have a very strong personality. This is not an issue. Right now, I'm very tired. I think that's how my brain is at the moment. So I'm giving myself some space, reading some stuff that I know I'm liking. And it's great. I'm enjoying all of these things. And then I'm gonna go play Horizon. I'm gonna play Horizon Forbidden West because Ryan got me this. I don't think I said that at the top of the video, but Ryan got me this. Because I've been wanting to wait for if there was a complete edition because it has the DLC that just came out and we like to own them for some reason. I don't actually know. I think it's because you used to, when you own discs, the memory on the disc would help save space on the PS5, but I don't think that's actually how it works. But regardless, we own these and I don't mind that. And I've missed this world like a lot. So I'm just very excited, even though this stresses me out so much. These monsters are so much bigger than Aloy. Aloy is so small. And there are bigger things. But honestly, I watched the story trailer and I'm just very excited. Very excited. So that, and I'm still playing Witcher. Witcher's been really fun. It's interesting. They're both, well, I think Witcher's more true open world game. And like Horizon's open world, but it's a little more contained. Like, I don't know how to describe it. It's like, I think there's just twice as much content for Witcher as there is in each Horizon game. And so I can get overwhelmed by Witcher. And also, Witcher's not like that hard if you stay within your level range, whereas like I find Horizon pretty challenging, especially because you have to aim more. Like, one's melee and one you can do a melee, but you should try and use other things, I guess. So I don't know, they scratch different itches, they're different aesthetics, they're different storytelling qualities. Like, I do think I like the voice acting in Witcher significantly more. So those are being balanced out for me. So I think those are all the updates. In terms of TV, still watching Smallville. We started New Girl, and Ryan's not disliking it. He's actually laughing and liking it, which makes me happy, because I have always wanted to finish New Girl. I never had when I first started watching it. I just think it's a fun, quirky sitcom. I really love Winston and Schmidt, and like, I think I like everyone more than I like Jess, but Jess isn't bad either, but I like all of the roommates. It's just such an interesting dynamic, and it's fun to watch. And so that's our new sitcom. And that's about it for this video. Let me know what you're reading, doing, watching this weekend. If you're a patron, we're doing our Velocity Weapon live show tomorrow, so feel free to join us for that. At the beginning, we'll just talk spoiler-free, and then we'll get into all of our spoiler thoughts. So that's happening this weekend for patrons. And I think that's it. So emoji, to let me know you're here. I feel like it should be something for Leech. Maybe snow, which feels out of season, but like snow makes sense for Leech. And otherwise, like if you liked it, subscribe if you want to, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.